Okay.
Okay, I will call the meeting to order then at Jim's request. This is a special board meeting of October 7th, 2021. It's all open session. And could we have the roll call, please, Michelle?
Yes, we have Director Bernstein.
Present.
And I'm going to, Director Jones is trying to move over. Oh, maybe he's here now. Hold on one second. Director Jones, if you can unmute yourself I'll move on and come back to Director Jones. Director Crawley.
Here.
Present.
Director Solano.
Here.
Director McLaughlin.
Here.
And Director Jones.
Here.
Thank you. We all made it.
And we don't have a public comment at this meeting, Michelle?
If anybody has public comment, they can provide a public comment on the agenda item. We have a note on here as this is a special meeting of the board. Public comments are limited to items on the agenda. So before any action is taken, if you want to ask for public comment, that would be a good time.
I see, because it's a one-item agenda.
Because it's a special meeting.
Okay. Okay, well, then let's move to the first item, which is to discuss and approve a benefit option for the successor compensation plans for these two groups. Are you going to introduce the topic, Chief, or is Francine going to do that?
I'm going to introduce Francine for the topic.
Okay.
So thank you very much, Director. So we appreciate you having this special meeting. We did find it important to try and get this portion resolved prior to the end of open enrollment so that we can afford our employees that fall within this plan the opportunity to pre-plan what they would pick for their selections based on what the board decides to do. And this would be included in their management plan, which will be starting in January. However, that would be too late for them to affect their picks. So I appreciate you all getting together today. Francine's worked very hard to burrow through the information and put together the staff report. So I will leave it to Francine to take it away.
Thank you, Chief Schaefer. Good afternoon, Board of Directors. As Chief Schaefer mentioned, we're bringing this item to you during the open enrollment period, which is currently ongoing. It closes on October 15th, which is next Friday. We're bringing this forward because the successor compensation plans for both Chief Officer and Management and Confidential Unrepresented Employees will both expire in January of next year. And staff is requesting that the board review the options listed in the staff report and approve one option during this special board meeting so employees can make benefit decisions for the 2022 plan year based on the benefit that will be provided in each respective compensation plan. In my board report, and before I begin with the options, I did want to provide a little history with the actions that the district has taken that have impacted the health benefit allowance offered to each of the district's represented and unrepresented groups. The district has taken these actions in an effort to confirm compliance with Section 125 under the Internal Revenue Code to reduce the risk to the district in overtime costs as a result of the Flores versus the City of San Gabriel case, as well as ensure that we're providing a bona fide plan that offers affordable health coverage under the Affordable Care Act. So we'll just start briefly with the chief officers. For the chief officers group in October of 2020, with an effective date of January 2021, the district removed the 401A benefit plan that was linked to health enrollment election, and the district reduced the health benefit allowance for the employee only and the employee plus one category for this group, and no replacement benefit was offered for this plan year. For management and confidential unrepresented employees, again in the October 2020 as well as a November 2020 meeting, with an effective date of January 2021, the district removed the management leave purchase option that was linked to health enrollment election, and they also reduced the health benefit allowance for the employee only and the employee plus one categories, and again no replacement benefit was offered to this group. With IAFF and their last negotiation for the MOU dated June 24th, 2018 through June 23rd, 2023, the district began to phase out the cash back option paid through the health benefit allowance, and in turn provided IAFF with the increase in the district's contribution towards their PEP plan, which is the post-employment health plan under 501c, as well as increase the maximum health benefit allowance available to IAFF employees. For the health cash back amount, in summary, the cash back paid through the health benefit allowance dropped from $1,100 per month in January of 2018 and will be $0 per month starting January of next year. The PEP contribution increased from $475 in July of 2018 and will reach a cap of $675 per month in July of 22. And then lastly, the health benefit allowance matched the Kaiser Family Bay Area premium with a $2,300 per month cap, and will continue to match the Kaiser Family Bay Area premium in January 2022 with a cap of $2,700 per month. For AFSCME, we just finished negotiations for AFSCME, and in the MOU for AFSCME dated January 1, 2021 through December 31st, 2022, the district also removed the 401A contributions, and for this group, they replaced it with taxable cash payments for current eligible employees only based on their current health enrollment. Under the current MOU, this cash option will be phased out through attrition. And although this grandfather clause is permitted in a collective bargaining group, it is not permitted for non-collective bargaining groups like the chief officers and the management and confidential employees. So staff is presenting 3 options for the board to consider to be included in the successor compensation plan for the chief officers and the management and confidential unrepresented employee groups. If an option is approved in tonight's meeting, it will be included in the successor compensation plan, and the effective date will be January 1 of 2022. So the first option that's presented would be to allow employees to purchase elective PTO, which would be similar to the management leave compensation purchase plan that was taken away from the management and confidential group. The details of this benefit will be included in the revised Section 125 cafeteria plan for next year, and the projected maximum cost for this benefit annually is $528,000. For option 2, the option would be to increase the district's contribution to the post-employment health plan, similar to what IAFF did, by $375 for both chief officers and management and confidential unrepresented employees. In addition to increase the district's PEP contribution, we would also increase the health benefit allowance for the employee plus one and the family category to align with the Kaiser Family Bay Area premiums. The district contribution for the employee only category already currently exceeds the Kaiser employee only premium, so we would not want to reduce that. We would keep that at $1,000. The projected maximum, so there is a change in this, and so I want to bring it to your attention. The projected maximum cost for this benefit is going to be slightly less than showing in the board report, because the last item that's listed is where if an employee waives coverage, they'll be eligible for up to $1,000 to use towards eligible cafeteria plan benefits. We haven't received a legal opinion if that's permissible under the plan. So if option 2 or option 3 are approved, we would need to redact that, and it would drop the cost by $12,000 for option 2 and by $12,000 a year for option 3. So option 2 would then yield a total cost of approximately $547,421.28. For the last option, option 3, like option 2, the district would increase the contribution to the PEP plan by $375 a month for chief officers and management and confidential and unrep employees. In addition to that option, we would increase the district's health benefit allowance for all categories, employee only, employee plus one, and family, to align with the Bay Area median medical premiums. I've listed the 2022 CalPERS rates in your packet, and the median would be the two that are highlighted in the middle, and I averaged those. The projected maximum cost for this benefit is approximately $629,956.08. Again, it'll be $12,000 less than what is shown in your staff report, because we didn't unfortunately get an opinion that we can offer the $1,000 for employees that waive coverage to use towards other eligible Section 125 plan benefits. So again, if option 3 is approved, we would have to redact that statement until we can get some legal opinion on that. So I realize that's a lot of information, and I hope I didn't go over it too quickly. If you have any questions, I'm open for questions.
Well, I do have a question, but I'm going to call on others first.
Sure.
Anybody else want to ask a question?
Well, I do have a question, because thanks for doing this, Francine, but we don't have any of that. I didn't get this in a packet, which I'm assuming didn't go out. Is there any way that we can see what you just read to us?
It's in the staff report. Did you not get it?
I don't think I have
Yeah.
it.
It
So
would, I got one.
you
Yeah,
did, okay, then
I
I may have missed it. I didn't see it.
Yeah, it's posted on the agenda site too.
I know, but did we get, okay, maybe I missed it.
I
I'm sorry.
emailed
I
it to
missed-
everybody, yeah.
Okay, I'll look in my email. For some reason, I did not see it. Sorry. I mean, if you can email it to me again, Michelle.
Sure.
Virginia, did you have another
Sorry.
question or?
No, that was it. Because I mean,
Okay.
I'm trying to listen to follow, but I'm sorry, I missed this staff report.
It came out on Tuesday, Virginia.
Okay, thanks.
Robert, did you have anything to add? A question?
I just informed Virginia it came out on Tuesday.
No, I heard, I'm sorry. But go ahead. Robert, did you have any other questions for yourself?
I didn't have any questions at this point in time. So go ahead and ask your question, Chuck.
Okay. Well, let me ask Rob. Rob, did you have any question?
Well, I reviewed the packet and I'm ready to make a motion for one of the three, but I'll listen to everyone else before, Chuck, especially your input.
Okay, well, thank you. And then Jim, did you have any questions?
Just one question, Francine. Do we know what the cost savings was by eliminating that 401A benefit?
So basically for the 2021 year, by eliminating, and let me bring up my spreadsheet. So by eliminating that, the management leave and the 401A in that plan year, the cost savings was $113,760.
Okay, thank you.
Let me just follow up on Jim's question for a second. The option 1 is very close to what was in place beforehand. So the total cost would have been roughly the same for it as well. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. So I mean, there's some dynamics of the plan that will be different so that we will comply, but it's roughly the same. And so what we're assuming is that for every budgeted position, we're basically budgeting $2,000 per month per employee for that cost, because they will realize that full benefit either in cash or benefit or elective PTO or benefits.
And then as I understand, whether somebody gets PEP or not won't affect which health plan they choose.
So yeah, we're restricted from linking the amount of a PEP contribution to the amount or to the election of a health benefit. It's discriminatory, so
Right.
we can't link it. It's not necessarily discriminatory at time of employment, but when someone retires, your PEP balance becomes your limit. And if someone that is a highly compensated employee has a higher limit than a non-highly compensated employee, then that plan is deemed discriminatory. So that's why the option 2 and option 3 proposals include a blanket PEP increase for all employees because we cannot base it on a health election.
Well, in asking the question, then it seemed to me that we had two tasks in front of us. One was a task from a year ago where the board, I think unanimously expressed a desire to make the employees whole who were disadvantaged when we terminated that retirement plan option. So that was one thing. We wanted to make them whole. We could do it with AFSCME because it was a negotiated agreement with a union, but we couldn't do it with the unrepresented or the chief officers. So that was one goal. The second goal is that we wanted now to give employees information about this so that they could make health decisions with that in mind. And the PEP is really not part of that at all. I mean, the PEP seems like an entirely separate issue. So it seems to me the only option here really that responds to what we were trying to do is option one. And you seem to be suggesting that maybe you could have option one be an addendum to option two or option three, but you're not sure of that at this point because you don't have a legal opinion supporting that. Is my understanding correct?
Not quite, I don't believe. So just to go back to the beginning regarding the options and the purpose for the meeting. So the purpose is definitely to align with open enrollment. The reason that we're providing different options and we're not just saying that we're going to reinstate the benefits that were provided is that the district has taken a clear path, a clear direction to remove away from providing cash benefits. We took it away from our largest labor group, IFF. Come January, they don't receive any cash anymore. So we're providing different options for the board to look at as replacement benefits to employees. So that's the one thing. The linking the option two and option three to option one. So each option is independent. There is a sentence, the last sentence under option two and the last sentence under option three that gives a benefit to employees who waive, which we do not have right now. And we aren't sure that we can provide that benefit because right now what's happening, and I'll just give you an example, is we have with IFF, if an employee waives coverage, they don't get any entitlement to their health benefit allowance, yet there's benefits that they could use it for. There's the health, the flex spending and the dependent care account. They can use it to purchase additional life insurance for themselves, but they can't use it for that. So what the employees are doing is they're enrolling in a plan that they don't need so that they can receive those extra benefits. So it just seems like it's not a good use of the funds. And so what I'm wondering is if we could propose to say, okay, well, if you waive, you still can use those funds for what you need it for, but not what you don't need it for. And those two options would only go with option two and three because option one has a benefit for people that waive. So those wouldn't be linked. We would just, those are separate and we would redact that language until we can find out if we actually truly can offer that. Did I help answer it at all?
Well, it seems to me I mean, let me say, let me speak personally. My interest was trying to make the employees whole that we disadvantaged a year ago. And it seems to me option one does that. And option two is just an increase to benefits for everyone for PEP, which is something that's of interest, but it's not really relevant to their insurance benefits at all.
It actually does increase the insurance as well. It increases both. It increases the health benefit allowance to align with Kaiser, and then it increases the PEP to offset monies that were taken away from employees that have a lesser health enrollment, like a waive or an employee only.
But you could realign under option one. You could also propose to realign with Kaiser as well.
Sure.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, but that's not in option one. It seemed to me that the PEP is entirely new, and we haven't really discussed the we were having this meeting on kind of an expedited basis right now, just to deal with the insurance part. And it seems to me that the PEP, whether we have PEP or don't have PEP, is irrelevant to the insurance coverage.
Yeah, again, just the reason that I included it in the option was to kind of mirror what IFF did. Because option 2 doesn't provide cash, we would increase other benefits to offset, and it was be taken as a whole. You're completely correct that it doesn't have anything to do with the open enrollment period, but just trying to look at avenues to kind of follow the path of what actions the district has already taken and to kind of align things accordingly. So yeah, these were just options presented, but
So,
I mean, let me just say, I also feel like the alignment is an important thing to do, but we have chief officers, for example, get like twice as much paid time off as other employees do. I mean, there's a number of things we haven't looked at, and we have a compensation plan in study in progress right now to look at benefits and so forth. It seems to me personally that it's premature to be increasing benefits without the benefit of having that study completed, look at what's competitive and so forth. IAFF also has different insurance benefits than the other employees. So yeah, the whole thing, nothing's really comparable at this point. Okay, I have just, go ahead, other question?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Robert.
Francine, is it my understanding that Chuck made a statement about making the employees whole again, and I think that's what the board was really trying to accomplish, supposedly when everything got taken away. Is it my understanding that not all employees, all these employees have the same health insurance? Is it, I mean, do some have Kaiser and some have Blue Cross or United Health? Is there a variety of different health plans that are out there?
yeah, the majority do have Kaiser. The majority of the group have Kaiser, but there are some with other plans as well as other coverage levels. The majority have Kaiser and the majority are family coverage. There are some that have different PERS plans, you know, 2-party, 1-party, you know, but there is a majority of Kaiser enrollees.
So was it my understanding that those that did not have Kaiser had to pay more? And part of that was taken away from them, went towards increasing their ability to be able to pay for the higher costs in insurance, like from United Healthcare or Anthem Blue Cross. Is that an understanding that, or false understanding I have?
So yeah, so the majority of the employees in these two groups have to pay out of pocket for their health. So that's greater than 50%. Those are employees at family, and those are employees that have employee plus one coverage have to pay out of pocket because the premiums are so high.
So if we go back to, for example, we choose, hopefully, if we choose item 1, then employees who are paying at higher costs than Kaiser then would have to come out of pocket more, or would have to come out of pocket for that. Is that
right?
Okay. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, they would still have the out-of-pocket cost. Right.
So with the new, if we go with option 3, for example, that would be taken care of because there would be enough there for them to be able to cover all their costs within what we give them without having to come out of pocket. Is that accurate statement? Okay. So it appears to me that if we're looking at trying to make employees whole, we need something other than option 1 on the table to work with. And it seems as if option 3 would take all that under consideration. So and the last question is that our deadline, you say, is the 15th, right?
That's when open enrollment closes. Yeah.
So Virginia, I'm through for now.
Are you done, Robert?
Yes, for now, yeah.
Okay, I'd like to interject here. With all due respect, Francine, I don't believe that your answer to Robert was accurate. it seems to me that only option one makes employees whole. And here's why, and Robert, let me explain this.
Sure,
First
please.
of all, option one could have medical benefits that lifted up at using the Kaiser standard. And it would, in that regard, option one would be exactly the same as option 2 and 3 with respect to health benefits. And that's something I would recommend. But for the employees that were waiving coverage, for example, option 2, we're talking about a number of people who, because they weren't getting coverage, were getting up between $12,000 and $24,000 a year in other benefits, or in this case, cash originally. And they were the ones that were not made whole. They lost all that money. And option one restores that money. Only option one restores that money. And I think what Francine was answering just with respect to the insurance premiums, but we could fix that easily. We could just raise option one's insurance premiums so they were the same as option 2 and 3, and insurance would be the same. But in terms of giving employees what they lost when we took away the 401A or 201, whatever it was called, 401B, only option one restores that with certainty. It's possible option 2 or 3 might restore it, but Francine isn't sure. Only option one makes the employees who lost a lot of money whole.
I didn't really hear that part of it. That may be true, but I'm trying to digest it. If option one will make employees whole, according to the chart here, what Kaiser, if you saw my increasing the premium on Kaiser, that increase, I assume, would be comparable to either option 2 or 3, and maybe it's option 3 in and of itself. If we're going to increase the premium, the amount we give them for premium is giving them back what we took away, but through an increase in premium without the cash back to them. So, and to do that, there are some people who are, and looking at the difference between Kaiser and United Healthcare and Anthem's for a single person, Kaiser is, if I'm reading this correctly, this employees only is $857.06, and United Healthcare, if someone's in that, is $1,020.28. So we're going to be increasing $250, maybe a little bit more or less, and the same thing go for Anthem. And there's a big differential between Kaiser employee plus one at $1,714.12 versus $2,040.56. You got a little bit more. You got to subsidize them with an increase in that premium. So if anything, that especially if the employee chose United Healthcare and Anthem, if we're giving them the flexibility to stay there, or if we're saying no, we can't do that, you have to go to Kaiser, will increase your premium. That now I don't feel good with trying to dictate that. If that's the only plan that was out there, yeah, when they first came, yeah, okay, maybe, but we took away something that allowed them that flexibility. So that's the only thing I worry about, is that we're trying to control where a person goes, what kind of healthcare system, what kind of healthcare they want. When they chose certain other plans, it was more, but they was able to pay for it from the money that we took away. So it seemed like the only way they're going to be whole is to be able to allow them to have the kind of health plan that they currently keep, that what they currently have at the pricing that's currently there. Yeah, you can increase the Kaiser, but maybe they got their whole family tied into the United Healthcare Anthem. I mean, because if not, then we're telling them, no, you got to go back to Kaiser. Am I missing the boat here? Is that not how it's working?
Let me say, though, a slightly different way. I mean, the difference between option 2 and option 3, option 2 uses Kaiser as the benchmark, and option 3 uses these two plans in the middle, United Healthcare and Anthem, as the benchmark. But so that's the difference between 2 and 3. option one could have that exact same, it could use either one of those standards instead of the one it has. It could use either one of them. In other words, we can make everybody whole with option one with regard to the medical benefits. But what we're not making anybody whole with option 2 or 3 is for those people who are single, who lost additional benefit that they were getting, they have lost that, and that's not available to them in option 2 or option 3. And that was,
Isn't it what they, I mean, the thing that they lost was the cash opportunity, isn't that,
That's correct.
is what else did they lose, Chuck?
well, yes, they had cash, but what we're saying is by doing this, we can give them other benefit. We can give them time off instead of cash
Wasn't that
And-
cash?
and make them whole.
In that cash time off is cash? You gotta pay for it.
That's
So
correct.
what's the difference? I don't know,
Well, I'm saying that people who had got jobs with us, and there were a number of them who were getting, one person getting $24,000 and about 3 or 4 or 5 that were getting $12,000 in cash because they waived benefits. They were saving the district money by what they were doing, and they were getting the benefit for it. So they were being treated the same as any other employee, and it didn't matter what size their family was. So they were saving the district money, and they got the benefit of that money. What we did is we took away that benefit of that money. And neither option 2 nor option 3 restores that to them.
I thought the point was to take away the cash. And that's what I thought this new, what Francine had done in the option was to take away the cash, but give them increase the amount that they would have towards their health plan under the coverage that they chose.
We don't increase their benefit. A single person, for example, loses $12,000 a year potentially here.
But that's the cash that we was talking about.
Yes, and we're not giving it in cash, we're giving it to them in elective paid time off.
And that's still cash though.
It's still cash because they won't be able to use it.
It's still cash.
Chuck?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, how are we ready to close discussion? Because I'm ready to make a motion.
Well, you can make a motion. I had a couple more questions, just but
Okay.
not related to this directly. I wanted to ask you, Francine, and I'll call on you, Robert. I wanted to
Okay,
ask you
no
about the dates of the plan. It seems to me that we're in enough time here that we could start all these new plans on January 1st, and that would be a smart thing to do rather than have these staggered dates that don't make any sense at all. And it would align with payroll and so forth.
It should. I think whoever wrote the plan last time had the wrong date because they both should start January 1. And so
Well, neither of them starts January 1, unless this is poorly written.
actually one does. If you read the actual report, it says one starts January 1 starts January 8th, even though the comp plan says through January. So it is poorly written, but what was approved in the agenda report says January 8th. But
So
you're
through January 1 is not correct. It's through December 31, 2021.
both of them should be. We should start them January 1. That's the plan year. Yeah.
Okay, and that's what I would recommend. Nobody loses anything by doing that. And it just
No.
brings it into alignment with the payroll dates and everything else.
That's correct.
Okay.
Director Bernstein,
Yes,
we believe that the January 8th date was because of our previous payroll dates. It lined up. So I believe there was a method why they did that, but we have since changed our payroll dates and this will just follow suit.
okay, thank you. it just didn't make sense to look at it the way it was.
And just to make a mention, Director Bernstein, definitely option 1 can be changed anyway. I just presented it as kind of trying to reinstate as close as I could the benefit that was taken away. And that's why I presented it the way I did. but it can definitely be changed to, as you mentioned, increase Kaiser or whatever. But I just tried to show it as reinstating the benefit that was taken away in 2020.
Well, so I would recommend that, Rob, again, I'll call on you in a moment, but I would recommend, and I don't have any comment about this, but I would recommend that the board discuss for a moment the idea of which benchmark to use. Should we use Kaiser as the benchmark, or should we use this middle of the range as the benchmark? And so I'd be interested in asking the other board members what they think would be the best benchmark to use.
Well, so Chuck, that's funny. I was thinking the same thing in terms of the benchmarks. I mean, basically options 2 and 3, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so in reading this, just out of curiosity, Francine, how did you come up with these benchmarks? I understand the Kaiser one, but option 3 has more choices in terms of benchmarking.
Yeah, so option 3 is the median. So I laid out all the plans.
With the CalPERS median.
The CalPERS median.
Right.
And so since it's an even number, there's 2 that would be in the median, and I averaged those 2. And just for the board's reference, if it matters, the current enrollment for the 21 employees that are enrolled in medical, 5th out of 22. So 21 of our employees out of this 22 that are in this group are enrolled in one level of medical or another. And 15 of that 21 are in a Kaiser plan.
Right. Okay. So that's that last paragraph under the fiscal impact, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is it 22 or 21? Here it says 22.
Well, there's 22 employees. 22 employees that would be eligible for a benefit. One of those employees waives. So I was just saying, out of the people that are enrolled for this plan year, out of the 21, just because you were checking with the benchmark number, 15 of them are in Kaiser, if that helps decide a benchmark. 15
okay. Oh, okay. That makes, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Just to kind of help.
Yeah. That helps a lot in terms of clarifying for me. Thank you.
And just to be clear here, though, would you actually specify the prices shown on the Kaiser line as the standards as opposed to the 1,000 that's there now?
Well, that's the thing, is that in option 2, we wouldn't drop the employee only level because Kaiser's below that level. So we would keep that at 1,000 if we raise the other tiers up to match Kaiser. We don't want to take away, again, any benefit. So we would keep the employee only at the 1,000 and raise the employee +1 and the employee +2 to align with the Kaiser. So
which would be, for example, for the employee +1, it'd be like $1,715 or something for that. And then
22, 28, 36, right?
Yeah, that's in that chart.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do people think? Which is the best standard to use? Should we use what most people are doing? Should we use the higher amount for the new year?
One last question I have for Francine, if I may.
Yeah.
So the difference, and I assume you got this, most of our employees, there are those employees who got United Healthcare and Anthems. There are some employees have those two.
Yeah, so we do have some that have Anthem or the PERS plans. That's correct. I was just kind of trying to like tell you that how many have the Kaiser.
Sure.
But we do have like kind of the one-offs, couple Anthem, couple PERS Care, PERS Choice, which those will be combined to now PERS Gold and PERS Platinum. But this is, I'm going based on this year data because open enrollment isn't closed, and so decisions are still coming in. But yeah, we do have, you're correct, Director Jones, we do have employees in the other plans as well.
So the only thing that's separating option 1, 2, and 3 is what?
It's the level of coverage for the health benefit allowance. That's the only difference. So the only difference between option 2 and 3 is for option 2, there would be no change in the employee only contribution because they're already above Kaiser single. But in option 3, the employee only would get a bump, the employee plus 1 would get a bump. Everyone would match median on option 3 for the premiums.
And the anticipation of premiums every year.
So, oh, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
No,
This
that-
is 2022. Yeah, what I'm looking at, right?
Yeah, this is gonna be the open enrollment choice on like next week.
Right.
Yeah, because we don't have the rates for 2023, so we're just doing it based on 2022 premiums. But very, pretty much on average, the rates go up each year. So in 2023, probably between, maybe 4 to 5 to 8%, depending upon the plan, it will increase again.
So would we have to, I assume we have to revisit this if the plan, if things go up for 23, we would have to be back at the table here talking about increasing the amount.
So not if you align with a plan. So if you align with Kaiser, then as Kaiser goes up in 23 and say the comp plan, say the district writes a comp plan for a 3-year term for unrep and chief officers. And they said during the 3-year term, we will match Kaiser, employee only, employee plus 1 and family. Then it would fluctuate. We wouldn't have to come back to the board because we would always match Kaiser for whatever the rate is for that year. So it wouldn't have to come back if we were matching a plan, or if we were matching, the median, and we spelled that out in the comp plan. We would say we would always do the median. We recalculate it, we would adjust it, but we wouldn't have to come back for approval because we were approved to match the median.
But for the other 2 and 3, we would have to come back to the board at that point.
No, we wouldn't. Because we would match it in the comp plan. We would say we are matching for this 3-year term. We are going to match Kaiser, say. So that means in 2022, Kaiser is 1,000, 1,700, 2,200, and that's what we would adjust our health benefit allowance to when we do our setup at the end of the year in payroll. And then come 2023, say Kaiser goes up or goes down, then we match it. So if Kaiser goes down, we would match it. So now Kaiser singles $900 and maybe employee plus 1 is $1,500. So whatever it does up or down during the term of that comp plan, we don't have to come back to the board because we got approval to match Kaiser.
But for the other 2, we would have to, United and Anthem, we would have to come back to the board.
No, if we wrote it in the comp plan that we wanted to match the median, then that's what we would do. It wouldn't be as easy as the Kaiser. We would just have to sort, take the median, average it, and that would be our new, but we would not have to come back for that one either.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the 3 options pretty much will set the course for what we're going to be doing now and even later on.
Could I ask a question? Are all 12, Francine, are all 12 of these plans available to all employees?
So all plans are available. Of course, it depends on where the employee resides. So there may be some, if someone's coming from, El Dorado Hills or lives somewhere else, there may be plans that aren't eligible in that employee's county or zip code. Sometimes it goes down to zip code. It's not even county. They'll say that, oh yeah, this plan's available in this county, but you put your zip code in and it's actually not available to that employee. So these are all the plans that are available in all of Region 1, which is a very comprehensive Bay Area region with, I don't know how many, 20 some counties. There could be some that aren't available if an employee is, commuting from far. It's very likely.
Rob, I'd like to come back to you for a second. I would ask you so that we could look at this kind of in a step-by-step way. Could you focus your motion at first, just the first motion, on what the standard ought to be, whether it ought to be Kaiser or it ought to be the median, and make a motion to that effect, and then we could discuss the other options in a much more clear way, I hope.
Could you explain what you mean by the standard, Chuck?
Yeah,
Well, it's basically the benchmarked amount, right? Who we're
Yeah, are we going to
benchmarking
use
against.
Kaiser as the amount, or are we going to use the median as the amount?
Or, right.
the,
There's
that
two
was that-
media.
Well, so Rob, what were you thinking in terms of options, I guess, if you're in your motion?
Well, I'll make my motion and then if I get a second or not, I'd like to make a motion for us to go with option 3, since it affords us probably the most open relative to the different plans, and it uses the other insurance plans also. I just have a problem with using Kaiser as the benchmark. So that's why I like to make a motion to go with option 3.
Which is the CalPERS medium premium as the benchmark, right?
yes, it's the median.
Right,
Right.
right, no, I understand, but
Okay.
it's the
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Well, I'd like to make a comment that I could go with either of the standards, whether we use CalPERS median or we use Kaiser, but I don't support taking away compensation from a large number of these employees. And that's what we're doing, whether it's cash or not. I mean, we're not giving direct cash, but the fact is, all of this involves cash. All of it has a cost to the district. And it seems to me people were hired with certain expectations. They work for us under certain expectations. And that's why I was hoping, Rob, that you could focus on the standard. In other words, make a motion to support the median as a standard, and then we could discuss separately whether we wanted to take benefit away from people or not. But I'm going to end up voting against the motion, even though I'm all right with the standard. And that's why I was hoping to separate the two parts of this.
Well, I mean, we could divide the question too, Chuck. So we could divide the question and vote on the CalPERS medium premium as the standard, and then look at compensating or not taking away or making people whole. If Rob wants to do the division of the question, I mean, I'll divide the question.
Let me ask Nicole. And Nicole, I'm not familiar enough with Robert's Rules of Order to know what the procedure is for dividing the question. Does that require a motion, or how does that work?
I'm just, sorry, go ahead.
And it does require a motion to divide the question.
There's a
So
motion on the table already.
Yeah, we have a motion.
that's the
Right.
question.
We
Yeah,
already
the
have-
question is, can I make that motion with the motion, an open motion now? That's
So
You can't.
if the
It's got a
question-
motion on the table.
That's, I made a motion to go with option 3, okay, as it's stated there in the paragraph. And if you want me to read it into record, I will.
No, that's not the issue. But there are some motions that can relate to the question on the table, and it's a matter of parliamentary procedure. And I'm not familiar enough with it myself to know what it takes to divide the question. Even though there's a motion on the floor, it's possible that somebody can, for example, somebody could make a motion to table the motion, even though there's another motion on the table. That you can do, but I don't know about dividing the question, which is what Virginia's asking here.
So I just need a moment to look on dividing the question, but the standards in the board's rules are that if the question contains 2 or more divisional propositions, the board chair shall, upon request of a member, divide the same.
Okay.
But if you give me a few more moments, I can look a
Well,
little bit
I think
closer.
you've given us enough then. I mean, I think Virginia has requested it. And so I would like to divide that then into the 2 parts and have the first part be the issue of what the standard is.
But there isn't a division of motion. Rob make it focus, and I second on option 3. There's no division of any motion in that. Where is the division?
Yes, but again, we were just advised by counsel, Robert, that
If there were a division in the motion, but there is
no, I'm sorry that people can override the motion with some other motion, and that's exactly what Virginia has done, and that's permissible.
Is it? You waiting for the time.
Chuck, I'd like to call the question and let's vote on the motion.
Vote on it.
Let's vote on the motion.
Well, if now you're making another motion here, so you're making.
No, I'm not.
Motion's on the table already.
You know what? I'm running the meeting and I want you to
You are,
stop.
but
I happen,
get the facts straight then. If you're
Robert,
gonna run it before you
Robert,
run it.
please. I happen to know about this part.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Robert
I'm
has
just wanting
just-
to know. I'm sorry.
Rob has just made a motion to close debate on this. That's his motion. And so I'm going to ask if there's a second on the motion to close debate.
Wait, so where's the division of the
We're-
question?
We're not, we're,
You did call for
If
motion on second, right?
Right, if it fails, we can do another motion. I mean,
yeah, but that's just
Right.
that's just not the way it's done, Rob. I'm sorry.
It is the way it's done.
no,
We've
it's
been doing
not.
it For the last 3 years, I've been on the board.
Well,
different?
Robert, I'm sorry. It's just not the way it's done.
It's not the way it's done for you now, but it's always been done that way.
I'm sorry, that's not correct.
That is correct.
Director Bernstein?
Right, so-
Nicole, can you enlighten us here at all?
Sorry, so I'm a little bit confused as to where we are. What's
Okay,
there
let's
was a
go back
motion.
to Virginia. Virginia basically made a
Please.
request to divide the question.
So do
and-
we have to vote on
So-
that request?
So for the first thing that I would say is that I'm looking at dividing a motion, and dividing a motion is really only proper if if each part of the question can sort of stand on its own and be adopted by the board on its own. And so I'm not totally clear in this context if that would be true, because it sounds like if we were to establish a standard by which the board is measuring, whether it's Kaiser or the median, that would seem to me to preclude option one entirely. But I defer to Francine on whether or not that would be true. Just trying to sort through the options here.
So
Director
option-
Director Bernstein, this is Michelle. I was wondering if I could make a public comment?
No,
Or should
not
I
right
wait?
now. I need to resolve this right now. So the question for the council to Francine is, could these two standards be applied to option one also? And go ahead, Francine, can you answer the question?
Well, I was just going to answer Nicole, and that I don't know how option one could be divided because there's only one element of option one.
No, it
that-
wasn't
that's not-
option, it wasn't option one. The
Oh, I
question
thought- I'm
was
sorry.
Can I
thought-
make-
three.
Yeah, can I make a comment about the
No,
division part?
please stop, Virginia. Let me hear from Francine, please.
Okay, I'm
Fran-
sorry, Nicole, could you repeat your question? Then I thought that was the question.
Sure. So a motion can be properly divided if sort of there's two parts that could each be acted upon, and that none of the other parts need to be adopted by the board in order for that to proceed. So my question is, if the board simply establishes a standard by which it's going to proceed under either of these options, doesn't that necessarily preclude option one? I mean, it doesn't. I'm not certain that simply adopting this standard is sort of a standalone action that the board can take, that we wouldn't need to take a subsequent action to complete the board's intent.
I agree.
Right.
I think I agree with what you said, that if you split out the option, I'm not sure, you would have to take another action to approve option one because there's no two options in option one. That would
Right.
count.
So I
Right,
will acknowledge
so-
I'm looking at this very quickly, Director Bernstein. So I'm responding as I can based on what I'm looking at. And if we can, I'm happy to take a little bit more time if you all have the time
no,
for me to
I-
look closer, but I want to try and, be
I-
responsive while still.
I think we're taking, probably too much time on procedural things. Virginia, and then before we take a vote on this, I am going to ask for public comment, but Virginia, go ahead.
So- Yeah, so and tell me if I'm mistaken here, but it seems like there's confusion about what exactly is being divided in terms of the question. Is that a problem? Does that seem to be a confusing element here? Because the way I'm looking at option 3, which is the option that Rob wants to consider, there are two things here: is to increase the PEP contributions from $250 to $625 a month, and increase the health benefit to increase the health benefit allowance to match the CalPERS medium premium. That's number 2. So my division of the question would be to vote on the, well, this is just me, assuming we get to the division of the question, to look at the CalPERS medium premium in a separate question. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, but I think what Nicole was saying is that you still would have to take 2 actions if you
Right.
want to
Yes.
tack that on to option 1. It's not just 1 action.
Right. So option 1 is not divisible.
Right.
Okay,
exactly.
but options 2 and options 2 and 3 are divisible in the way I'm reading this. So I'm dividing it so we can talk about the standard and then also, the PEP contribution issue and increasing the health benefit allowance. Sorry, I'm reading the staff report on my phone. So that's how I'm looking at the division of the questions so that we can take those 2 separately. Option 1 isn't even something that I'm even considering. We're not even considering option 1. This is specifically for option 3. Does that make sense to everyone?
Makes sense.
Okay.
Chuck?
Yes,
that
thank you. And so it seems to me that option 3, which is the only one on the table right now, is divisible into 2 parts, and I'd like to take each part separately. So we're going to have a vote, but not immediately. We'll have a vote on the first part, which is the standard, and the second part, which involves the PEP portion. Let me, though, ask now before we do that, if there's a public comment. I heard a comment that there was public comment, and I'd like to hear it now, please.
Director Bernstein, the public comment was from me, Michelle.
Okay.
And I just wanted to tell the board that, almost a year ago, several employees had their compensation greatly reduced when the cash in lieu went away. And then it was replaced with the 401A, or the purchase of management leave, which made it up to us. And then you eliminated both of those but you had indicated to staff that were negatively impacted by that move that you wanted to make us whole. And the option that you're choosing, number 3, does not do that. It sounded like to me that Director Bernstein was saying option 1 well, first of all, it would make people whole for people whose salaries were reduced because of that action. But at the same time, you could increase the amount for employee plus 1 in families so that they don't have to pay out of pocket. And I just wanted to say that I'd really like you to reconsider and think about your motion and how it impacts all employees and not just families. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the comment. Is there any more public comment?
Yes.
Yes, there is more public.
Yep. Chris Pimentel, you're free to talk.
Hi, good afternoon. Hey, thank you all for being here today, a special meeting, and taking time out of your day to address this. It does impact, 22 of the members' compensation. And I'm not sure if we got away from the point, and maybe I'm just misunderstanding it. We were here to correct what was taken away and obviously address the differences in the pay for the health plans. Is it possible you can make 2 motions, one to approve getting everybody square, and then one to, to adopt a compensation plan for the medical that's appropriate? That's all I have.
Thank you. And is there any more public comment, Michelle?
There are no other public comments.
Okay, just because we've had some public comment, I'm just going to go around the board again to see if there. I've divided the question, and because I do think that it's possible to divide this. The first part is what is this, the standard. And Rob, I'm interpreting Rob's motion, the part A of his motion, to be that he wants to adopt the CalPERS median as the standard for the medical subsidy by the district. Does any more comments from any of the board members?
I'm not sure. Rob, are you still online? I'm not comfortable with what Chuck is stating as a motion. or we could divide the question.
Yeah.
I'm still having a little hard time on that. And I want to ask Francine one last question on this, if I may. Francine, are you saying, is option 3, are you saying that if majority of people chose Kaiser, that option 3 would not be an advantage to them at all?
Did you say would not be an advantage?
Would not be an advantage in terms of just purely looking at, because we're talking about numbers for a single person, employee +1 plus family. It seems to me that there are more money available for the person in Kaiser, I mean, in option 3, than Kaiser have as a single employee, for a single employee, as well as for the employee +1 and family. Am I misinterpreting that that would not be a shortfall for the people that chose Kaiser if we went with option 3?
So I'm not sure I completely understand the question, but option 3 wouldn't, I don't know, I'm not sure what you mean by shortfall, but I don't believe it would be a shortfall for people that chose Kaiser if we went with option 3, because option 3 would provide more than Kaiser. Is that the question?
Yes, that is the question. That said in a different way.
And just to say it another way, if we voted for option 3, everybody could buy Kaiser without any out-of-pocket expenditure.
Correct.
Thank you, Chuck.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other?
Chuck, yeah. I
Go
have
ahead.
a comment.
Go ahead, Rob.
Well, yeah, my motion was to adopt option 3 whole with the CalPERS standard and the fiscal impact aspect. I have not agreed upon splitting it, and I think the way Francine has explained it here, I think it's in pretty much simplistic terms relative to option 3. I would rather go with the CalPERS standard, and with the Kaiser benefit relative if employees choose to use Kaiser at their discretion. But there is still the option there for employees to pick other insurance carriers too. So
that's absolutely correct, and that's right, and that's
why I want.
That's what we're doing, Rob.
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to go with option 3,
yeah,
and that's why I made the motion, and we have a second. With
I
Robert.
understand, but there's a second issue here. So what we've got is a compounded motion. We've got that, plus we've got the PEP plan, and I just wanted to take those two things separately.
So
Chuck, could I
please, Jim. Go ahead, Jim.
I just want to make the comment that when the board took away that 401A benefit last year, we didn't reduce anyone's salary at all. Some people experienced a loss, based on their the selection of their healthcare benefit. They were able to, some people got up to $1,000 a month. I guess if you waived completely, it'd be $2,000 a month. My position on this is that the district benefit dollars should go to purchase healthcare. That's its primary purpose. I think, creating a benefit based on the selection of a plan was a benefit to some employees, but I think we need to get back to what I do think there's a lot of value in aligning ourselves with the IAFF contract. I think this accomplishes that. I think it helps the greatest number of employees. So those are my comments for now.
Okay, so I'd like to then, if there's no more comments, I'd like to then take a vote on the first part of this, which
Could
is.
I,
Yes, go
Director
ahead.
Bernstein, if I could just jump in. So what I'm hearing is a lack of unanimity on the division of the question. And so I would suggest see if there's a motion, to divide the question in a second and a vote on the division before proceeding to actual vote on the divided question.
Okay, but I thought a minute ago you had told us that if somebody requested it, that's what you needed to do.
I think that there's more than one way to go about it. And I think in this case, the sort of giving the majority an opportunity to weigh in would be appropriate here.
Okay, I will. So I'm going to back up then. The motion on the table right now is the division of the question. Should it be divided into the standard to be used or the benchmark to be used is one part. And the second part is discussion of the PEP benefit, which is a new benefit here. I mean, an additional benefit.
So yeah, that's my motion, Chuck. The division of the question motion was mine,
Okay.
right? And so that is exactly right. Those two parts to the question. And that's not to say that this motion, that Rob's original motion is bad or good. I just would want I just want to have more of a discussion on the standard. That's all. That's why I'm dividing it.
Nicole?
Yes, Director Solano?
Yeah. Isn't there a motion on the table in a second to do the entire option 3 as whole?
I think because there was the request to divide, it makes sense for us to see if there's a motion there is a motion, see if there's a second to the motion to divide before proceeding, because if we vote on the motion for the whole, there's no option to proceed with the motion to divide.
Nicole,
Can we see that
Um,
and call the vote?
But-
This is like going around the mulberry bush.
I know, but let me say, it's simpler if you don't, instead of cutting off the debate, which requires another motion, we're at the point now where we're going to take a vote on whether we divide the question or not. And I think I could see why somebody would want option 3, but I'm not sure why are we putting hundreds of thousands of dollars more into this PEP plan? That doesn't fix what the problem was in the first place. It's just an additional benefit for everybody. It doesn't make anybody whole or anything. So why are we adding that? It seems to me it's a separate issue than what standard we should use. So I will second Virginia's motion.
we can't, hold on a minute. You just running off doing what you want to do without following protocol, Chuck.
I'm sorry.
I had my hand up for a question, and then still you just ignore me and move into what you want to take place.
I'm not ignoring you,
And the
Robert.
question I have for the attorney, if I may, and I'm going to insist upon this because this is how
Go ahead,
it's been done
please.
in the past.
Go ahead.
The attorney, what is the division here that you see in option 3?
So I understand it from Director Corrali, the
No, I'm
division.
talking about what do you see?
I'm sorry?
I want to know what you see. I heard what Virginia said, but is that a clear division?
I believe it is. It made more sense than what I initially was hearing in terms of the division. So as I understand it, the division of the question would be to increase the PEP contributions from $250 to $625 per month. And that's the first question. And the second question would be increase the health benefit allowance to match the CalPERS median premium. Is that consistent?
Yes, that's right. And I think I mentioned that. Again, I'm not trying to say I'm against the original motion. I just would rather have a more robust discussion on the two, well, the standard really, not the other one. But I think in order for us to do this in light of Rob's original motion is just to have this motion to divide the question in those two parts, as you said, Nicole, that and I mentioned that earlier, that those were the two
And
parts
if I
I was dividing.
So
And if I could,
does the word "and" makes it a two-part question? If it was used $625 a month, which will include, is there a separation in the latter part of what I said versus putting the "and" in there?
so I think the real significant piece is whether or not each part represents a proper question for the board to act upon. if none of the other parts is adopted. And I believe, and I guess this is a question I would want to reiterate for Francine, are each of these individual pieces that the board can act upon?
Yes, they're individual.
Right. Instead of being lumped together. That's why we divided the question.
Right. They're presented together as an option, but they are individual pieces.
Right.
Okay, well, then let's vote and see if we want to divide it. Let's
Okay.
go.
But hang on, let me just make sure, Robert, you finished your questions and so, to Nicole?
I want to
Robert,
see what the vote's going to be.
Robert, did you finish your question to Nicole?
I may have some more questions for her later.
Okay.
Yeah, it's same with me.
Okay, any other, so we're going to vote on the division of the question. Yes will be that we divide the question, no that we do not divide the question. And is there any more discussion before we vote?
So can we just confirm who seconded my division of the question motion? Was that you, Chuck?
Yes, it was.
Okay. So just for the record, Michelle, I made the motion to divide the question and Chuck made the second to that motion.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Michelle, would you do the roll call vote, please?
Director Bernstein,
Aye.
Director Jones,
No,
Director Crawley,
Aye.
Director Solano,
No,
Director McLaughlin,
No.
Okay, so the
So-
question will not be divided then. We'll just go with voting on the whole motion, option 3. And let me come back with any further discussion on option 3. Well, I will say I'm not even sure why, well, I'm not sure why we even, I guess we had to increase the amount of the standard here because that might affect people's decisions in open enrollment. But we're making a substantial increase in benefits here. We've just engaged in a study about what comparable benefits should be. And I don't think it's right to be increasing the benefits. I agree with increasing the health benefits. I don't agree with increasing PEP benefits without understanding what's kind of a normal thing to do, what other agencies are doing, and before we get the results of our own study. So I'm going to vote against it when the time comes. That's my comment.
is there a call for a vote or are you voting now?
I'm sorry?
Are we voting now?
Well, if you're making a motion to close debate, or I could ask if anybody else had any comments. Okay, does anybody else have any comments before we vote?
I have a quick question just for clarification. Francine, this option 3 gives the employees the most flexibility, right?
So option 3 gives employees that enroll in health more options for plans to choose with less out of pocket. That's what it does, because we're taking the median and saying that we will offer coverage up to that level. So there will be, for those that enroll, there'll be less out of pocket for that option than
Right.
than another option maybe, yeah.
Right, for sure, than option 1, but then so for option 2, that gives you some flexibility, but you're tied to the Kaiser standard,
Well, you
correct?
don't, I mean, you don't have to enroll in Kaiser, but you're tied to that premium level. So if someone didn't want to choose Kaiser and chose a PPO with a higher premium, then there could definitely be an out-of-pocket, you know.
Yeah, the difference between the Kaiser amount and the PPO premium, correct?
Right, the difference, yeah.
So just to be clear, it's not offering them more flexibility. It's simply offering them more money. I mean, they can have more, they can buy more plans with less out-of-pocket expenditure.
Right, for option 3.
Yes.
Yes.
But everybody can still choose the same plans no matter
Yeah,
what.
they can choose whatever plan they want. It's just the coverage will provide for more plans if they wanted to limit out-of-pocket expense for a health premium.
Right, and
Okay.
so that difference between options 2 and 3 is about $83,000.
Mhm. And that would be not reducing the employee only coverage because Kaiser's less, it's the 8 something. So we would-
857, yeah.
yeah, we wouldn't reduce that one. We would keep them to 1,000, and then just bring everyone else up on that one to Kaiser. Yeah, employee plus one or employee family.
Okay, can I ask you another question regarding the CalPERS standard?
Uh-huh.
So this is the medium CalPERS standard, right? And so how, the medium, sorry, premium. So, and maybe it's just I'm a little ignorant in this area, but how can that premium, how much can that be moved and increased or decreased? I mean, how is that premium set?
Yeah, so CalPERS sets the premiums, each year, and it depends on what plan is in the median. PPO is based on usage, right, versus an HMO. So PPO has kind of a lot more. HMO is still kind of based on usage, but PPO has a little bit greater flexibility in rates. So, I think they kind of typically range, like around, I think the average for this year, and I could be wrong, but I believe it was like between 5 and 8% overall, the plans, increased. So it will definitely, increase each year. But it has, and that's if you went with median. If you went with Kaiser, an agency that I worked at prior, we matched ours to Kaiser. And there was 2 consecutive years where Kaiser went down, and so our health allocation went down. We matched Kaiser. So if you're going to the median, there's probably more fluctuation in price for future plan years versus if you matched Kaiser would be kind of my guess.
Right, that's what it seemed like to me as well. And so I'm looking at the end of the day, in terms of the cost and less out of pocket for employees, I understand that, but someone has to make up that difference. And at the end of the day, our residents are making up the difference in some way, shape, or form, through their taxes. And so I'm just trying to be mindful of that. That doesn't mean that I don't support this, but I personally, I think I wish that we'd had the discussion on that, on the difference between Kaiser and the CalPERS medium, because I do think that option 2 should be a viable option, but it doesn't look like it may be. Just from a tax dollars perspective.
I don't know.
Or taxpayers perspective.
Any other questions or comments from any board members? Okay, then let's proceed to the motion on the table is to approve option 3. And a motion was made by Rob Solano and seconded by Robert Jones. Yes, Francine, did you have a comment?
Sorry, just really quick, if there is a motion for either option two or 3, if the person reading it can redact the last sentence, because we don't, even though we want to provide that benefit, we don't know that we can and that it's permissible. So,
Which, I'm sorry, which sentence is that for both? Oh, if an employee
if
waives
an employee
coverage.
wage coverage, they'll be eligible for up to $1,000 to use towards eligible cafeteria plan benefits. We'd like to provide that benefit if one of these options were chosen, but we're seeking a legal opinion to see if it's permissible under the plan. And so,
As in eligibility, or the fact that we can even use the $1,000 towards that?
yeah, as in the latter, as if we can even allow employees to waive and still use those cafeteria funds. I'm not sure if we can do that, if it's legal. So whoever, if option 1 doesn't have that, so you wouldn't have to redact, but if someone were to propose option 2 or option 3, if you could just in your statement redact that last sentence. And
So
we'll still
is that
oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Francine, is that that sentence,
Uh-huh.
for up to- is that factored into the fiscal impact piece of this
Yes,
item?
it was, and that's why I dropped it when I kind of went through my overview. I said it will be less. It'll be each option 2 and option 3 cost will be $12,000 less.
Right, but
Let me
Okay,
make sure,
okay.
Rob. So Rob, you've made a motion here to approve option 3. And Francine has indicated that the last sentence is not a part of option 3. Is that still acceptable to you as part of your motion?
I definitely yield to it, Francine. Thank you, Francine.
Okay, and then Robert, could I ask you, you seconded the motion. It's okay that this last sentence has been removed from the option?
It was my understanding from Francine's presentation, that's why I voted upon it, that line that will be removed, so.
Okay, so it is acceptable. Okay, so I think we're ready for the vote then. Michelle, would you please do the roll call?
Director Bernstein,
I'm going to vote no, and I'd like the minutes to reflect that what we would be doing here is increasing district expenditures by $110,000, and we would be hurting 25% of the employees in this group.
Director Jones,
Yes,
Director Crawley,
Yeah, I'm so on the, I haven't even, I feel like we haven't even had the discussion for other options. So right now I'm gonna vote no, mainly because I would have wanted to flesh out option 2 a little bit more before making this decision. Not because I'm against option 3. I just don't feel like I can make the decision without even discussing option 2.
Director Solano,
Aye.
Director McLaughlin.
Aye.
Okay, the motion has been passed 3-2 with Directors Crowley and Bernstein voting no. We are ready to adjourn. I guess there is no public and no public comment here. So we have a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second. Rob has seconded. Go ahead, Michelle, please.
Director Bernstein,
Aye.
Director Jones,
aye.
Director Crawley,
Aye.
Director Solano,
Aye.
Director McLaughlin.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, well, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.